You're tuned into the Fresh Ice Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Zeno Pucks. Here are your hosts, Andy and Brian Matusi.
Welcome to Fresh Ice, everyone. Andy and Brian here with you as always. And as promised, we are finally here to do the East preview a week later than we intended. But better late than never, I always say. Real quick before I bring Brian in and we get started, I just want to announce to everybody real quick, 1 week from today's episode, we will be recording October 19th. That's this coming Sunday. That is the episode. We will have Jeff Rimmer on the show. For those of you that aren't aware, Jeff Rimmer is the recently retired TV play-by-play commentator for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that's going to be a really good episode. We're going to have a lot of fun, and it's definitely one you're not going to want to miss. So stay tuned for updates, and make sure you're following us on social media so you can stay up to date on that. Brian, it is about time that we get down to business with the Eastern Conference.
You're right. And I say, what better way to do that than to announce the two Western Conference contracts that were signed over the course of this last week. All right. So we'll just get these out of the way quick. First one, Kyle Connor in Winnipeg, 8 years, $12 million a year. It's the same as the Rantanen deal. So that's a good deal for Connor. He gets to stay in Winnipeg. I never really had any doubts that he was going to go there. Resign there, but he's going to stay there long term. The other one is Ekholm over in Edmonton. He signs a deal that's essentially going to close his career out 3 more years at $4 million per. It's a good deal for him, and he's, the Oilers' number one shutdown defender. So it's going to be, a nice deal for him. Gets him set up for retirement, and now he can just play. And again, for the Jets with Kyle Connor, the same thing. It's like you just want him signed so he can play and focus on the season. And the Jets and Oilers both are in situations where they're in go for it years. So good to have that business done for those teams.
Yeah. And again, I mean, this isn't a contract that was surprising to me at all. Sorry, I was looking down. I was texting my wife. But this wasn't a contract that was surprising to anybody. And a contract that needed to be done. I'm a little surprised they didn't get this one done a little sooner, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, well, and the market was all over the place. I mean, you had Kaprizov signed the big deal, and then McDavid and Eichel signed. So the kind of landscape for signing these big deals changed so drastically over the course of a couple of weeks that I think a lot of these guys just didn't want to be the first one to break the dam, and they let Kaprizov do that for them. So, but yeah, those are good deals for two good players, and now those teams again, which are both in go for it mode, can go for it. So. All right. With that said, we got a gauntlet to go down with the Eastern Conference. So let's start. We're going to start out in the Atlantic Division. And again, just like last week's or the Western preview, a couple of weeks ago, we're just going to go in alphabetical order with each division. For the Metro, we are going to do the Blue Jackets last, as we'll do a Blue Jackets corner to round out the show with our discussion about them. But everything else will be in alphabetical order. So nobody was picked because we liked them more or less. Otherwise Tampa Bay wouldn't even be in this breakdown. So, all right, let's start with the Bruins. Boston last year was 33, 39, and 10. That was 76 points. That was second last in the conference and 28th overall in the league. Last year was just a bad year for the Bruins overall. It felt like it was doomed from the start. They deal with that Swayman drama all off season. They deal all Mark, and then, Swayman misses all of camp, signs the day before the season starts. The Bruins stumbled hard out of the gates, and it cost Jim Montgomery his job. And I'm not saying I don't think Marco Sturm will do well in Boston, but I think the Bruins really fumbled the bag with firing Montgomery, that is. But they never really righted the ship after firing him. And on deadline day, of course, they deal Brad Marchand to the Florida Panthers, and obviously he goes on to win the cup there. So there's been some dark days in Boston over the last several months, and it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't seem like it's getting better, but it seems like it's no secret now that Don Sweeney's relationship with the Bruins ownership is likely what's allowed him to keep his job. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, Andrew, but to me, it just seems like this guy's really taken the team in a kind of a rough direction. And that's putting it very lightly. And now they're in a spot where again, I think an original six franchises fans deserve better than what the Jacobs family and what Bruins management are doing to this team.
Yeah, I've been a pretty strong vocal advocate for that, especially the last couple seasons. I'm actually interested to get our friend Don's take on this as well.
Yeah, they love the Bruins.
Yeah, so put the Jacobs family aside for a second, because I feel
I'm sure Bruins fans would love to.
Yeah, but I'm for the sake of this conversation, Don Sweeney is far more detrimental to this organization than the Jacobs family is. Now, I will say that as a result, like you said, of his relationship with the Jacobs family, that's the only reason he's still sitting here. He's not a good GM. He hasn't done anything these last several seasons except tank what was otherwise a really good team. And I know that there's factors that fell into it. Obviously, they lost Marchand at the deadline last year. Bergeron, Chara, Krejci, Rask, all those guys that were part of that stretch of good Bruins teams are all gone now. But there is some good young talent on this team, and Jeremy Swayman does have it in him to be a good goalie. However, I don't know with getting rid of Monty last year, I think that was a bad idea. I don't know how you fire a coach with a winning record, like by a mile. You fire him and let him go, and then you bring in what was his name, Joe Sacco.
Joe Sacco, yeah, just as the interim, he was already with the team.
Yeah, but I mean, and that did nothing good for that team. I think morale went even lower once they got rid of Monty. And again, I want to kind of bounce off your point. Marco Sturm is not going to do bad in Boston. I really don't. Obviously, we're almost a week into the regular season now. Bruins look good coming right out of the gate, at least 3-0 to start the season. No issues there, but they haven't really, they're going to have to withstand the test of time here this season. They've got Tampa Bay coming up. I'm interested to see how they perform against Tampa. I think there's a lot of factors here for this team that could go in the right direction, but everything boils down to front office. And, I could sit here and bash Don Sweeney all day, but Cam Neely's not much better. I think that's worth mentioning too. He's just Don Sweeney Jr. in my book, and people are probably going to disagree with me, but I don't like the management team of Don Sweeney and Cam Neely at all. And I think until those roles are replaced, I don't think you're going to see a silver lining for the Boston Bruins anytime soon. That's just my opinion, and I've been wrong before.
Well, and I'll say this much to your point about that. First of all, I think it's interesting you mentioned all the names that they've lost in Sweeney's tenure, because the Bruins had some. I mean, Sweeney's first few years as the GM of the Bruins, they were one of the best teams in the league, but a lot of it was, I don't want to say it was dumb luck, because he did draft a couple of the players that were part of their run to the final in 2019, but largely this group he had was, all the cornerstones of it were guys that predated him being in Boston. So I always felt he failed really to add around the core that he had there to really get some true talent around those guys that were already really good, to push them over the hump and get them that championship. So I always kind of felt like he was lacking in that department anyways, but then you see what happens when these guys go, and you see what the team is. Now, last season, I think, was a little extreme because of the injuries they had. I mean, McAvoy missed the entire back half, or not back half of the season. He missed everything after Four Nations. I know Hampus Lindholm was injured for a while. Again, Jeremy Swayman really had a rough start to the year because he missed training camp. And nothing really seemed to go the Bruins' way last year. But with all that we said, because there was a lot of negative in there, I still feel like the Bruins will be significantly better this year. Now, obviously, this is a little easier to say when they have the good start that they've had. But even without the hindsight bias, I mean, you just expect that you're going to not have injuries to your top two defensemen, and that your starting goalie's not going to miss training. There's certain expectations you have, and I think with everyone healthy this year, the Bruins, again, just should be better. I think Swayman's going to return to form as one of the top goalies in the league again. I'm not crazy about any of the big signings they had this offseason, like extending Morgan Geekie till the end of time. I know he had a good season last year, but I just felt like that was a lot. I don't think Henry Jokiharju is really a difference maker. Tanner Jeannot for 5 years. It's like when, signing Milan Lucic light. Like, that's the only thing I can compare it to. It's just a way more dialed back version of what was once one of the best power forwards in the league. They bring Sean Corrali back into the fold, who was part of their 2019 Cup run. He's a good depth center. He fit in there his first go around with Boston. I think he'll do fine there. He probably isn't playing with the team this year because he's not signed, but the Bruins also drafted James Hagens with the high draft pick they had. I think down the line, he's going to be a star for this group. But right now they're not in a great spot. But again, they just dealt with so many injuries last year. I'm actually inclined to believe that not only are they going to be better this year, but I think they're actually going to find a way into the playoffs. There's enough talent there that if they're healthy, they should be in.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I mean, that is the expectation looking from the outside in. But I've been watching this team a long time, and I know what they're capable of, both good and bad. So I did just notice, I actually noticed this the other night when I was watching them. I didn't realize it during the offseason, but they picked up Victor Arvidsson this year. I did not notice that until recently. Not that that's going to be anything that makes or breaks this team.
Yeah, if it was 2016, they would have cooked with that one.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But you know what? That's a great point that you just made. That is the textbook definition of the Boston Bruins, is bringing in names of guys that were already past their prime. I remember when they brought JVR on the team, and I was like, wow, if this was 2013 or 2014, I'd be stoked right now. But it wasn't. It was 2 seasons ago. So like that, the Bruins love doing that. And I shouldn't say the Bruins, it's Sweeney loves doing shit like that.
Or where they brought in Max Talbot, I think, played a year there as well, which is hilarious.
Brian Giunta.
I was gonna say Brian Giunta. Holy fuck, yeah, I forgot about that. I was gonna say Jerome McGinley too, but the season he played with the Bruins, he actually had a really good year with them.
Yes,
so I won't pick on that for that. They do go after a lot of guys that are well past their best days, but we'll see. Again, I think generally, yeah. Although you know what, you look
this year, different story.
I mean, I would say they hit it on the head with Pasternak and McAvoy, but every now and then you do. Well, unless you're the next team we're going to talk about, but we'll get to them in just a sec. But overall, before we move on from the Bruins, like I said, I think playoffs for them this year. How do you feel about the Bruins and their chances?
I definitely think playoffs this year. I think they're going to have a pretty solid rebound from last year. Although based off last season, in my eyes, the only way to go is up from here.
That's true.
But I think last season was kind of a fluke. There was a whole lot of lack of chemistry and mixed emotions and just bad juju in the locker room and in the organization as a whole. I think they have a solid rebound this year. Ultimately, I think they come back to the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I like how that sounds too. I think it'll pan out perfectly for them. And again, the conference around them got better, but again, they were simply part of it. They simply aren't as bad as they played last year. That's just
Correct.
reality. They weren't great, and they were not without fault, but they weren't second worst in the conference bad.
Yeah,
so,
I'm
all right.
with you.
I'm going to give you first in the conference bad. Now, next team, Buffalo Sabres. I'm going to make this part really quick. Buffalo last year, 36, 39, and 7, 79 points. It was 14th in the conference, 26th overall. In these season previews, the intention is to do them, with no bias from seeing any, in-season action. But because of the way this panned out, we got to see the first couple of games of the Buffalo Sabres, and they weren't good. Between their piss poor start to this season, again, only 2 games in, so don't overreact, but between their piss poor start to this season and the injury to Josh Norris, which I don't know what the extent of that's going to be, but it sounds somewhat serious. It just appears the on ice product for the Sabres is as bad as we all expected. I'm almost to the point of no return with this group, in that we got so numb to talking about the shit with Arizona over and over and over again before they moved that eventually we just kind of stopped talking about it until they did move. And I'm pretty much here now with the Sabres and Terry Pegula. This organization continues to be one of the most depressing franchises in professional sports, and the owner just doesn't give a shit. Buffalo fans show up and showed out on opening night for this team. They didn't score a single fucking goal. They almost got shut out by Boston the other night. They just don't look good. They're an absolute train wreck. They got 2 good defenders that that serve the same exact purpose. And there's really just not a lot good with this team. On paper, they should be better than they are, with guys like Tage Thompson there. They should be a better hockey team than they are, but the bottom line is they just aren't. The owner doesn't give a shit. It doesn't seem like he'll ever give a shit, especially as long as his football team is doing good over there. And it's really too bad because the fans do deserve much better than what they're getting in Buffalo. I think it goes without saying that they're not going to make the playoffs. And look, again, there's some good players there. Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, they're good defenders. Tage Thompson's a great skater, really gifted shooter. UPL's a pretty solid goalie. Like there's talent there, but it is not constructed in any kind of manner that makes me think this team is ever going to be anything close to a threat in the playoffs. I mean, we talked about them in the same breath with Detroit and with Ottawa over the last couple of years of which one of these three can break through. Well, it's not Buffalo, and it clearly doesn't look like it's going to be them again this year. So that's what I'm going to say on the Sabres. No playoffs for them. I'm getting pretty tired of this franchise. And again, it's not an issue with the fans. It's an issue with the team and specifically the owner who just doesn't fucking care.
I don't have anything to add to this. You said everything I wanted to say almost verbatim. So no playoffs for Buffalo this year. There's no point for me to sit here and repeat everything you just said. So
yeah, and really that's what it boils down to is the same talking points this team's had for the last decade. It's always the same shit. Oh, they got a lot of young guys coming through the system every single year, but they never get any better. They're always bottom 5 in the league, and it's just exhausting. So I'm pretty well done with this until Terry Pegula can sell this team, or they can figure out how to ice a team that can win 40 fucking games. It's not even worth discussing for me, and it's too bad it's that way, but that's how it is.
All right, we're going to take a break and give Brian a Xanax because he's getting all worked up again.
No kidding. Where's the Benjamin?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on and talk about Detroit. So Detroit last year, 39, 35, and 8, 86 points overall, 10th in the conference, and that was 21st overall in the league. As I just mentioned with Buffalo, we talked about that trio of Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo, and which of them is going to break through and get that elusive playoff spot. And if I recall correctly, going into the season, we both had high hopes that it was going to be Detroit's year to break through. And it looked for a good portion of the season like that was going to be the case. But right around the time of the Stadium Series last year against Columbus, the wheels just started to fall off the wagon. And however you want to call it, stumbled, tripped and fell, rolled into the finish line. I mean, it was a really kind of a disastrous ending to the season. And it led to Detroit missing the playoffs by 5 points. They didn't really do much this offseason, I think, to get better too, which makes this even more difficult. As I mentioned earlier, most of the teams in this conference, really, except like Buffalo and Pittsburgh, most of the teams in the Eastern Conference, I think, did more than enough to get better. And I don't think the Wings did that. I don't know. It's tough because I want them to be good, and those new jerseys they have are sick. Yes. But they're gonna have a really tough road ahead if they're gonna make the postseason. I mean, if anything can save them, I would think it's McClellan behind the bench. You have veteran coaching, veteran leadership. If anything is going to push them into the playoffs, it's going to be this, because I just don't think they improved really anywhere at all on the ice to make me think that they're going to leapfrog some of the teams that were ahead of them last year. So it pains me to do this, and I hope they make it in. But for now, I'm going to put them on the outside of the bubble, and I'm just going to hope they prove me wrong.
All right. I can respect that. For me, there's a couple things to unwrap here. For me, one of the things is goaltending. And if you have something to say, feel free to jump in at any time.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned that, I should say I don't want to discredit them getting John Gibson. That was an absolutely great ad. But because nothing else was addressed, I didn't think it was enough to offset the problems that the team still has. But I should have given John Gibson his flowers because he is a good goalie. Continue.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with that, is they do have John Gibson, but at the end of the day, that's all they have. And it's, you sit back and you look at this team just on paper, and you see you got names like Dylan Larkin, Patrick Kane, who obviously isn't playing like he did in his prime, but he's still playing like Patrick Kane. You got Alex DeBrincat, Lucas Raymond, Seider, Ben Sherratt. Guys that, like, looking at this team, you would think, all right, if I didn't know anything, I would look at this roster and think, all right, yeah, this is a playoff team right here. This is a team that can make the playoffs, and they haven't been. I think, I don't know how much flack I will or will not get for this, but it feels like the coaching situation pretty much since Babcock left the team, and I'm not giving Babcock credit for anything. I'm just saying since then, since their playoff run ended, it feels like they've been lacking an identity almost, if that makes any sense, if I'm wording that correctly.
Well, and it's hard to make the shift that they had to go through was so much different because they had so many fucking Hall of Famers for 20
Correct.
years. I mean, there was always going to be kind of that night and day difference anyways, but I think you've absolutely hit it on the head that it does not feel like they have an identity.
Yeah, and I mean it's so weird too I mean you and I, we have a couple buddies that are diehard Wings fans. So I'm not a Wings fan myself, but I've hanging out with them, spent a lot of time watching the Wings. And when I used to think Red Wings, I was like, this is one of the most dominant teams in the league. And now I'm just like, I almost look forward to playing the Red Wings now because I'm like, oh, it's a good probability we're going to pull a dub out of it. Now, I will say, as far as season expectations for this year, I think you and I are going to be on opposite ends of the spectrum for now. And like I said, I know yours is just a preseason prediction, quote unquote. But I think, and I said this the last 2 years too, but I truly believe in my heart that they will make the playoffs this year.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. And it's not that I think they're bums, because I don't think they're a bad team, but I really want to emphasize how much better the teams in their conference got. I'm just going to name these teams, and I want you to answer to me. Do you think that the Red Wings are better or worse than these teams as I name them? Okay. Washington. Washington, mind you, first in the conference last year, but anyway, Washington.
I'm going to say worse.
Okay, Toronto.
Worse.
Tampa Bay.
Better. I have reasoning behind that, but we won't get into it, but I'm going to say better.
Wow, okay. All right, Carolina.
Better.
You think they're better than the Hurricanes?
Absolutely. I think I say this every year. Carolina's a bunch of frauds. I don't buy it.
They are frauds, but they're late playoff round frauds, not regular season frauds. All right, Panthers.
Definitely not better.
Okay, Senators.
Better.
Devils.
Careful.
Careful. Remember, Jersey was banged up to shit last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to take into consideration here. I'm going to say no. I think a fully healthy Devils team, no, they're not.
All right, and then Montreal.
Ooh, this is probably going to piss some people off, but I'm going to say better.
All right, Columbus.
Better.
You think they're better than the Jackets? All right, the New York Rangers.
No.
You don't think they're better than the Rangers? Okay, the Islanders.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so too. Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Think they're better than Pittsburgh? Well, no, everybody's better than Buffalo, so we won't count them.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
The Bruins?
No.
All right. And then Philly.
Yes.
All right. Well, by that math, you only picked 7 teams that you thought were better, so that math does work. That now I must know, and the people listening to this must know what you had for breakfast. What's part of your diet? What could you possibly be doing that has led you to the conclusion that the Detroit Red Wings are better than the Tampa Bay Lightning? Please
I think
enlighten all of us.
I think Tampa's on the decline, and I'm not taking a stab at Tampa Bay by any stretch, and I'm not basing off their playoff runs here because obviously they played Florida, who nobody was stopping. But I think they're on the decline,
and I would absolutely agree with you that they are on the decline. They're not what they were 3 years ago. And in fact, I think I have that in my notes for Tampa's. It's not kind of the same group they were, but I mean, God.
Well, here, let me tell you this too.
That's steep, man. I mean, that's steep.
And again, I'm not saying Tampa sucks. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying is Tampa's on a decline, and Detroit, I truly believe, is a better team than what we've been seeing. It's there. Something has to awaken in this team, but I truly think Detroit's a much better team than what they've been showing. So that's my logic behind that. Obviously,
right.
yeah. No, look, man, I'm not gonna contest you on saying that's a stupid take, because I know there's probably a lot of people out there, that probably everyone that's gonna disagree with me. But
I don't want to
care.
say stupid. I would say more so unexpected. I don't think I've ever heard that statement.
As it sits at this exact moment right now, I believe Detroit is a better team than what we're seeing, and Tampa's on a decline. Time will tell. But hey, if I end up being correct,
I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think Tampa's won a game yet. I think they're 0-2, and I think Detroit's 1-1. But still,
yeah. So,
all right. Well, hey, you know what? We could be sitting here in April doing our playoff predictions, and Detroit could have won the division. So you never know.
Yeah.
But again, I'd be enlightened, or not enlightened. I'd be pleasantly surprised if they make it. I would be very pleasantly surprised if they make it in.
I
those
think
new unis would be sharp.
Yeah.
All right.
So they always got good unis.
I won't ask you to explain the Hurricanes, because I'm just as big a Hurricanes hater as anybody. So, I mean, I'm a big Tampa hater too. That caught me off guard. But, man, all right. Well, I won't ask you to explain the Canes then, but I did enjoy that. All right. Who's the next team? Oh, duh. All right.
I got this guy all messed up now.
Yeah. All right, the next team on the list is the Florida Panthers. So the Panthers last year, 47-31-4, 98 points. That was 5th in the conference. It was 11th overall, but none of that mattered. They won the Stanley Cup last year, back-to-back champions. I didn't note any significant signings for them this offseason, as they signed their entire core, and I would say all of those signings were significant. So rather than rifling through them one by one, we can just say that this team is stacked, and the reason they won all their, both their Stanley Cups, all those guys are still here. So simply put, they proved again, they're a perennial cup threat now. And not only are they a cup threat, but now they're on the verge of a dynasty. I mean, they are knocking on the door. They have all of their core players locked up until at least 2030, which sounds made up. And even with the injuries to Barkov and Tkachuk, you'd truly be foolish, I think, to doubt the capability of the team. Tkachuk's going to be back before the turn of the new year, I believe, and Barkov, with any luck, will be back for the start of the postseason. And again, not to say he's going to be in game mode and Stanley Cup playoff mode the second he comes back, if he comes back, but there's an outside chance they have a fully healthy roster for most of, if not all of, the playoffs. And until somebody gives me a reason to believe otherwise, I have no doubt that the Panthers, first of all, are the favorite to win the East again, but they should be most people's favorites to win it all one more time. I have no real notes on this team. They're about as well constructed as anybody, and they've proven it. Andrew, you're a fan of the Panthers. I think only a fan could add more to, what's already obvious out there as far as how good the team is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've got how many guys locked up through 2030, all of which were essential parts of this team winning back-to-back cups. You and I kind of talked about this off the record before the season started. There's going to be, some growing pains not having your captain, especially a captain at the same caliber as Alexander Barkov, out for the entirety of the regular season. Tkachuk, that's going to be a blow to the team, but the bright side of that is you get him back around January, hopefully. Two other guys that are on IR right now, Dmitry Kulikov, who's, I would argue, very essential on the defensive side of things, and Tomas Nosek. Nothing insane about him at all, but again, I thought he was still a very important part of the season last year. And now you've got your goaltending situation, which Sergei Bobrovsky, who I say there's no argument here, has cemented himself as one of the greatest goalies of all time with what he's done these past couple seasons. And now they bring in Daniil Tarasov, and I gotta say, I wasn't a fan of him when he was in Columbus, because I saw how he played in Columbus, and I saw him when he was on conditioning stints in Cleveland. I was never impressed by him, but I liked what I saw out of him in the preseason this year. And I know you can't fully gauge somebody off what they do in the preseason, but I liked how he looked this year. So that's showing signs of hope from a backup goalie standpoint. Overall, this team has remained largely unchanged. It's the same guys. Bill Zito, being the wizard he is, was able to lock up Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand, and somehow we're still holding on to Evan Rodriguez. And this team looks lethal. I know we're a couple games into the season. They're 3-0 this point, although I would argue they haven't played anybody notable yet. That test is coming, but I'm with you. I think they're going to win the East this year. And, if things keep going the way they are, I think this is if there was going to be a team in our generation that's going to three-peat, I think this is the one that's going to do it. And, if they do, then this is no doubt one of the greatest franchises to exist. So it's
on a bender for sure right now.
It's still weird for me, as a fan of the team, because hell, not even 10 years ago, I mean, they were talking about relocating this team, and I remember sitting in that arena with my wife watching games, and they didn't have 2,000 people in the stands. And now it's really nice to see how far this organization has come, and you really got to give full credit to Bill Zito here. He's been an absolute godsend for the Panthers, along with Paul Maurice behind the bench. I don't have anything negative to say about the Panthers, and it's not bias. It's just they followed the strategy of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And here we are.
Yeah, and again, with those injuries to Barkov and Tkachuk, I'm not expecting them to win the division. I think it would be kind of silly to expect that. I mean, look how they were last year, and they still didn't win the division. So, and that's fine. When you're winning championships, you don't care about the division. But they're easily one of those top 3 teams. So I'll be fascinated to see how they navigate not having 2 superstars in the lineup for a good chunk of the season. But I don't have any doubts about how good this team is. So we'll respectfully move to the next group. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't want to clear that into the mic, but I clicked mute and then it didn't go and I had already started to clear my throat.
That's good radio, man.
Yeah, it's excellent radio. All right. Montreal last year, 40, 31 and 11, 91 points in the standings. That was 8th in the conference and it was 17th overall. This offseason, Montreal extends Jakub Dobeš for 2 more years, kind of a prove it deal for both. It's like, all right, let's see what the Habs can get out of this guy in net. I mean, obviously Montembeault, they know it's going to be a reliable guy anyways. So, I mean, seeing what you have in another potentially good goalie, I don't think it hurts anybody. I think both sides of this will be better off for it. But the Habs kind of caught everyone off guard this past season with their kind of resurgence, if you will, the relevancy. They showed that, kind of while they're in their infancy as this next wave of players, they're still capable of making noise, and they're only going to grow as a group as they continue to log games together. And as I mentioned, again, with Dobeš, it's not that he's going to be the main guy there. It's probably going to be like a 1A and 1B with him and Montembeault in the net. It seems like they have something good brewing there, and I think it'll be part of only getting better as they get more time on the ice. Bringing in Noah Dobson is a huge bolster to their back end. And obviously with Lane Hudson already there too, that's going to really, really strengthen that defensive core. They brought in Carrier last year too. They have Jack Guy there, who's one of the toughest customers in the league. And I'm going to take a quick aside to this too. I know they're in this contract dispute with Lane Hudson. I know they're in it deep, but it's like how I was feeling with Kaprizov in Minnesota, and it's like how it was with McDavid with the Oilers, and Kyle Connor with the Jets, and Jack Eichel with Vegas. It's kind of all the same thing. I just think both sides need more time to get aligned on what they want out of a deal here. I'd be stunned if he doesn't extend with Montreal. I think Hudson wants to play in Montreal. The team is on the rise, and they're kind of letting him lead the charge for the defensive core. I mean, he's getting the big power play minutes. He's getting all of the big offensive zone starts. Like, he's getting to play a lot, and granted, he could probably land that opportunity elsewhere. The lights are the brightest in Montreal, and they love him there, and I would just be stunned if he doesn't extend there. It's not going to be something overnight. Again, the market's been jumping all over the place with some of these deals getting signed, but in a world where the cap's exploding, I am convinced that there's a way they can come to an agreement here and work something out. This player's too good for the franchise to let go of, and he's got some time invested in this system, and it'd be stupid for him as a young player to not want to stay part of it, especially when it's, again, showing those early signs of paying off. This bill that they have, it's really starting to kind of come together for them. So I'd be stunned if he doesn't say. I know there's been a lot of noise, but I think it's just that. I think it's just noise. He's going to stay in Montreal, and the conference is getting better around them, and he's going to be part of helping them keep up with the times. And so I think as good as he is, and as good as the Habs are, and as on the rise as they are, I think this season is going to be a blip on the radar. I think they're going to be out of the postseason this year, but I think they'll be back in it next year and many years to follow. Again, I feel like everybody got too good around them. And when you consider the fact, again, like Boston, there's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last year. Who else in the division? I think the Penguins are going to be a little better. I don't think they're maybe going to be playoff level, but I think they're going to be better. I think Columbus is going to be better than they were last year. And so Montreal's going to have to battle with some teams here to get in. I don't think they're good enough to take one of those top 3 spots in the division. I think those are pretty much property of Tampa Bay, Toronto, and the Panthers, but we'll see what happens. They still have to compete with a team like Detroit and a team like Ottawa, and they don't have to compete with the Sabres, but the Bruins will probably be back in the mix. So there's a lot to consider with this year, and so that's why I'm inclined to think that this year specifically Montreal is on the outside looking in, but then for probably the next decade to come after this, I'm going to probably have them in the mix.
I don't hate that take at all. I'm pretty much on the same page with you. Things are looking up for them, but as you mentioned, the entirety of the conference around them has gotten better too. So I think just given off how last season was, and they legitimately made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. It came down to you couldn't cut it any closer than they did. I just don't think there's enough there yet. There will be. I do think the future looks promising for them. There is one thing on here that I wanted to kind of get your take on, just because you and I didn't talk about this initially when it happened last season, but I'm genuinely curious. What do you expect out of Patrik Laine this year?
Not much. He had a scorching hot start with them when he hit the ice last year, but I don't know. I don't even want to pick on him too much. First of all, I think he's just kind of plateaued. I think he is what he is. He's going to be a streaky scorer. He'll always be around in the league. I think he'll have a long career, but I think he's plateaued. I think he is what he is. And so he's always going to be a threat on the power play because he's got such a good shot and he's always going to get his looks. But like even in Montreal specifically, I think like Cole Caulfield's a way better player. Nick Suzuki, those guys are both better players. I think Caulfield's even a better shooter. Laine's got a really good one-timer, but I think Caulfield's a better shooter overall. So, but again, he's not making a ton of money. And in a world where the cap's blown up, they already have, I think, a sizable chunk of cap space anyways. I don't think his contract's going to hurt the team. I think the salary cap exploding has really helped that, but I don't think he'll be a hindrance to this team, even if he doesn't play to, at least the potential he can.
I'm with you. And one thing I got to say too this year, this is more directed at the rest of the league, but watch out for Demidov, man.
Yeah, kid's good. He is.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't even mention his name in all this, but he's insane. That's the one thing that I think teams are going to have to worry about, man. He's going to be on a mission this year. I mean, his skating game is unbelievable. His hands are lightning quick. And so for all the I don't want to even say questions, because I do have faith in this Montreal roster. But he's certainly, one of the bright spots of this rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, I say give it a few seasons. Obviously, we have to watch him play for a full season to know. But, I mean, if he plays to his true potential, I mean, give it a few seasons. He's going to be one of the best forwards in the league, hands down.
Yeah, and Reinbacher's injured for them, too. I don't know how long he's going to be out. But that's, again, another young potential star in the making there. So if they can get him back on the ice and play, that's going to be a huge addition to their group, too. This is a way different scenario, but I said this about Detroit too. I don't think this is a team of bums, and Montreal even less so than that. I mean, they're to the point where I would call them a good team. They're just in a really loaded conference. This isn't a bad hockey team. I just think the conference around them is that good. Now I could see them getting a wild card spot. The talent is certainly there, but this year I just don't see it. And by the end of this, we'll have all our playoff picks anyway, so we can kind of paint a clearer picture. But what do you think for Montreal, Andrew? Playoffs or no?
I'm going to say no. I think it's going to be close. I think they'll be close.
Yeah, they'll be in it all year. 100%.
Yeah. I will say it's definitely going to be a battle, but I think ultimately they come up just short.
I think the Bruins being good again this year, I think will be the kind of the thing that pushes them back, because again, they had that resurgence through the standings last year, but God, if Boston wasn't so god awful, I mean, that would have knocked them out. I mean, they only made the playoffs over Columbus by just a couple of points there, and they had the same amount of wins. So they were in it right till the end. Montreal, I mean, it took them till the end of the season, I should say, to lock up that last playoff spot. But again, everyone's getting a little bit better around them, and the teams that finished below them last year, other than the Bruins and maybe Philly, I don't think got too much better, but Columbus is arguably better than they were last year. And it's, again, nothing's guaranteed. Health isn't guaranteed. And I just think this year isn't the year for Montreal to be in the mix, but we'll see what happens. They could go on a heater and, take one of those top 3 spots. So time will tell. Let's see. Ottawa last year was 45-30-7. That was 97 points in the standings. That was 6th in the conference and 12th overall in the standings. And Ottawa this year is going to be another fun one to watch. It'd be interesting to see what they do to build off of their success last year. I mean, they were really the first of that fabled Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa trio to see real signs of their rebuild being a success. And I know obviously their playoff run wasn't long last year. You have to get in at some point and break through and start to accumulate that playoff experience. You can't just get in and win the Stanley Cup on your first try every time. It doesn't really work like that. So while with Ottawa, I kind of have some concerns about the true strength of the overall team construction. I do feel like that defensive group after the top pair kind of has a quick fall off, but offensively, they're a very gifted team. And with Ullmark on top of his game, I would say very easily a postseason contender still. And again, they bring back Giroux for another year, which again, that doesn't cost you hardly anything. And that's a good veteran player who's from there. And I think that's a good vibes move. They extend Fabian Zetterlund for 3 more years, a low risk move for a player with a pretty high ceiling. So there's going to be some potential there for the Senators to make some noise. I mean, there is. Sanderson and Shabbat are great defenders up front. Obviously, Brady Tkachuk is an outstanding player. So there's a lot of room and there's a lot of weapons on this team. And they could definitely make some noise and easily be back in the postseason mix. What are your thoughts on Ottawa?
Well, I think a large part of it, and it's something that you kind of just said in passing, but I think a large part of it falls on Linus Ullmark and him being on his best game. Because when he's on, he's one of those guys, he's a brick wall, but there's some inconsistencies there throughout the season with him. So I think a large part of this is going to come down to his performance. But like you said, overall, there are some good weapons on this team. And, I think with a guy like Brady Tkachuk leading the charge too, I just think that this is a team that has they have more potential than a first round exit. So I think, last year, the way it ended for them was kind of disappointing, and I'm not an Ottawa fan by any stretch. But I expected a little more out of them, and I'm going to hold them to that same standard this year. I think this is a team that has a lot of fire still. And, I mean, you've got good names on this team. I mean, you got Brady Tkachuk, you got Dylan Cousins, Nick Cousins, David Perron, like you said, Shabbat, great defender.
Tim Stützle.
Yeah. So I think the tools are there. It's just proper utilization is what we'll say, is what I think what it's going to come down to. We'll see, but I'll even go as far to say as I would be shocked if they don't make the postseason.
There you go. I'm going to put them on the outside looking in. This is another one where I had a really tough time not putting them in the postseason mix. But again, as we round out our picks, I hope this will make a little more sense to some people. But I'm going to put them on the outside looking in. As good as they kind of were to, make the postseason last year, I just don't feel like they're able to quite keep up with the other teams around them. Again, there's some great talent here. That top line is fucking unbelievable. And even the second line's pretty good too. But again, I feel like that fall off on the back end is quick. I mean, it's Jake Sanderson. Thomas Shabbat is on the second pair, but he's paired with a 6,000-year-old Nick Jensen. And then Artem Zub, again, he's on their top pair on the right wing, but he's 30. He's just pretty good. I don't think I would even call him elite. But and that wild card is going to be Ullmark's play. Is he going to be 925 save percentage Ullmark or 905? And that could be a huge difference maker for them. And don't forget Batherson's also in Ottawa as well too. He doesn't. I think he's injured right now, but that's another name where he's a good player for this good young team. Again, as we complete the conference preview, maybe it'll make more sense why I don't have the Sens in. But I'm going to go with Sens not in this season. Although again, with like Montreal, I believe brighter days are still on the horizon. I think once one of these groups like Tampa Bay really falls off, I think that's where they kind of make their move.
Interesting.
Speaking of Tampa Bay, let's move on to them next. Tampa was 47-27-8 last year. They had 102 points in the standings. That was third in the conference and seventh overall. And some people might even say that the Red Wings are better than them. Tampa. So for me, it's just funny that you said that because my notes for Tampa Bay were somewhat complimentary. There's a lot of similarities in both Florida teams when you look at the Bolts and the Panthers, just as far as the amount of star power they both offer. Super reliable number one defenseman, world-class goaltending. I mean, Tampa's core group of forwards is probably as lethal as anybody in the league. I think, with Kucherov and Point there, just those two guys alone are just surgical with how well they move the puck around and shoot it. But the overall structure of the defense group for me leaves a lot to be desired with Tampa, especially when considering that the Panthers and Leafs, who are probably going to be one of those two, would likely be their opponents in round one in the playoffs. Both seem to have a better defensive core from top to bottom, although I would say Hedman is probably better than any defender on either of those teams by himself. And Toronto's defense core is kind of aging quickly, but I would say any knowledgeable hockey fan is going to tell you that Vasi is going to give the Bulls a chance to win every single night. And again, those dangerous forwards that they have, they're like Kucherov. That forward group can carry play well enough to kind of offset any defensive shortcomings that they might have anyway. And even still, they're not bad. Like, I know their defense group is getting older, but like McDonough's still very good, even at 35 or 36 or however old he is. And so this isn't a flawed, glass cannon kind of a team. They can still take their hits. They can still shut it down. They still have good goaltending, but you can kind of see the gap between themselves and the Panthers and why the Panthers have been able to kind of put them away with relative ease the last couple seasons in the playoffs. I mean, we're essentially witnessing a power shift in the Atlantic as we speak. And the Panthers really are starting to run away with that. And, so it's not how it was as recent as 4 or 5 years ago, but the Bolts are still very elite and still very capable of winning a Stanley Cup, even with their flaws. So I'm going to say they're a no doubt lock for the playoffs. Even if I think they'll run into some issues with teams like Toronto and Florida.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. There's no way these guys don't make the playoffs. And then, with the statement like that, you go back to, how do you think Detroit's better than them? I maybe should have chosen my wording differently, but I think Detroit is fully capable of competing with them. That's how I would word that. With that being said, I mean, this is another roster where it's like you don't really need much change here, but there has been a steady decline since they lost the Cup final to Colorado in 22, and nobody can argue that. It's shown. But you look at the team on paper, and they have all the essentials here. I mean, look at this roster. Kucherov, Point, Gensel, Hagel, Chiarelli, Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gord. I mean, just the names go on. And at the end of the day, you've got one of the best tools in the NHL in your crease with Andrei Vasilevsky, who's going to give you that chance every single night. So, again, this is I'm not sure that there's necessarily anything missing, but this is a team that should be making a deep playoff run, I would think. And I don't know, man, but I say there's no way they missed the postseason. And I think ultimately, I mean, this is a team that's, first or second in the division, I would say. So we'll see.
All right. Fascinating. All right. So, let's move on here then. Let's go. We have one team left in the Atlantic. That would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hang on a sec here. Okay, there we go. My computer froze up for a sec. All right, Toronto last year was 52-26-4. They had 108 points in the standings. That was second in the conference. It was fourth overall. Statistically, was the third best regular season in Maple Leafs history. All of their best seasons coming in the last couple of years, actually. And, in the offseason, the Leafs obviously move on from Mitch Marner. They get the big deal done with Matthew Nyes to lock him up for the next 6 years. They lock up their goaltending tandem for the next couple of years as well. But there's still work to be done. Like, obviously, another frustrating playoff exit. but they kind of have this new look now without Marner in the lineup. They're going to have to build off the foundation that they set for themselves last year without Marner. Obviously, there's going to be some growing pains with him gone, but steep improvements to Matthew Nye's games are already apparent in my eyes. He's already become one of the best young power forwards, one of the best power forwards in the game at his young age. And I think he's only going to continue to get better. Plus, an elevated role for newly acquired Matias Maccelli should also kind of allow the Matthews line to deliver a large chunk of Toronto's offense still. I think Nyes, again, he's a really gifted shooter, but he's just such a massive motherfucker that when he hits the ice, I mean, guys keep their heads up when he's out there. I mean, he's a tough guy to play against. And Maccelli's kind of another, hard-nosed player who's going to go into the corner and help get those pucks. And I think both of those guys feeding Matthews all year long is going to, again, help them get a huge chunk of that offense for the Leafs. It's going to be weird without Marner on that right side, but I think they're up to the task. I think they can overcome that loss of scoring in the regular season that Marner can provide.
Well, and I think that kind of gives other guys a chance to step up too, in the face of adversity. So I don't think Marner leaving is going to be detrimental. Like I mentioned earlier in the season of this show, that leaving Toronto was the best thing that ever could have happened to Marner. I also think it's also beneficial. Well, I said also twice the same sentence. I also believe it's beneficial to Toronto as well. It was just kind of a mutual thing. It wasn't working out. He wasn't happy. They weren't happy. I think ultimately that ends up being a benefit for this team in the long run. And again, like you said, it's going to be weird seeing that absence, but I don't think it's going to change much. I think Toronto's still going to be a pretty dominant force in the Atlantic this year. And, provided, Joseph Woll can get healthy and stay healthy, I think that's going to go a long way for them too, because he proved that he is who they want in net. A team in recent years, especially, I'd say the last decade, has had goaltending issues, primarily when it came to the postseason. It just couldn't get the job done. And we didn't really get to see that this year, what the potential was, because obviously Joseph Woll got hurt in the second round against Florida. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested to see what Toronto does this year, because we say this every year. We're getting closer and closer to Toronto's got to be reaching that point where they're finally going to break through. I've got to imagine we're on the cusp of that. So do I think it happens this year? I don't know. I don't want to make any predictions because of the way the sport is nowadays. It's so hard to tell. But ultimately, this is a good team, and I like where they're headed.
Yeah, and actually, to your point, you mentioned okay, when is this finally going to fall into place for them? And it's actually a good point that you bring that up, because I want to kind of take this in a little bit of a different direction. I mentioned before the Maccelli and Nyes will help kind of drive the Matthews line, help them deliver a lot of their scoring. I kind of think the same thing for the second line as well, like when Nylander playing with guys like Tavares or McMahon or Domi, if they play them together. I think those guys are going to be good too. And I think, again, it's good enough we're in the playoffs with some, with good coaching, and I think they have good coaching. I think this is a group that can get over the hump, but they're kind of in a weird spot right now. I mentioned earlier when we talked about Tampa, Toronto's aging decor, and whether or not it is good enough or it isn't, if the Leafs themselves believe this team can win a Stanley Cup as it's constructed, no Marner kind of line shuffled around in an aging defense core, if they think this team can do it, they've given themselves a really, really fucking narrow window to do it. Because again, Morgan Rielly, I think, is 31 or 32. Jake McCabe, I think, is 32. Chris Tanev is got to be north of 35, 36 by now. They're getting old quickly, and as good as a lot of their players are, this is going to be a small window where they're good enough. Their good vets are going to quickly become aged vets that can't play the big minutes like they used to. So I almost wonder, is this going to be good enough? They need to have this breakthrough, but can they have the breakthrough before it's too late? In the offense, the offense they're always starved of in the playoffs, can that break through, and can they start filling out the score sheet before this defense gets too old to be able to shut it down for, series of playoff games at a time? I think the goaltending tandem is good enough. It's not elite. It's not better than Florida. It's not better than Tampa, but it's good enough that behind solid offensive and defensive play, it can survive. And they proved that last year, I think. But I just wonder if they haven't given themselves a wide enough window because of the age of their defensive group.
And that could be, but I want to point out with last year's playoffs, I will be the first person to admit this as a Panthers fan. Toronto was hands down the best team the Panthers faced in those playoffs.
100%.
Yeah, not even. I mean, obviously they took them 7 games, but you take that aside, just all around, Toronto was the best team Florida faced.
Yeah, I think that's right on.
With that being said, you need your captain, Austin Matthews, to step up. He either gets hurt, which is obviously not much you can do about that, but then he also doesn't perform at the level he's capable of performing at. And it seems like it's like that every year in the playoffs. And that's one of those things where I'm like, okay, when is this finally going to break through? And I think that's been, part of their demise in the playoffs is lack of production from Austin Matthews. And he has these phenomenal, unreal regular seasons in the playoffs roll around, and he's just average at best. I don't know what it is, but that's going to be a factor for them too. But I don't want to go too harp too much on the playoffs at this point, because we're not even a week into the regular season, but just throwing things out there that they need to look for moving forward.
Yeah, although I will say Matthews last year, 11 points in 13 playoff games. Now, I don't know how the spread is for those stats, but those numbers aren't horrible. And he's just under a point a game in the playoffs for his career. I don't even think it's the playoffs as a whole. And that's kind of been the not mantra, but it's kind of been the, I can't even think of the right phrasing for this. It's just like the word about the team. It's the word on the streets is all the Leafs. They can't get it done in the playoffs. I don't even think it's the playoffs as a whole. I think it's winner take all games is their demise. It seems like those are the games they always just die in.
It's the status quo for them.
Yeah, there you go. Status quo. That's probably the closest word that I could think of to what I was trying to say. I still don't know what the word I was looking for was, but
and you didn't even think of it. I did. So
exactly. So, but for the Leafs, I just think in these winner take all games, I think a lot of it's mental too. I think they just got to get out of their own heads. But we'll see what happens. I think this group, again, it's not a bad team. I don't think it's better than Toronto I don't think it's better than Tampa and the Panthers. But again, you said yourself, and it was pretty apparent they played Florida as well as anyone last year. A couple different bounces one way or another. I mean, hell, they were 10 minutes or 15 minutes from going up 3-0 on the Panthers, and they let the series get away. I mean, a couple bounces here and there makes or breaks that whole series for them. So I don't think they're as far away as maybe some people might think. But again, I certainly think they've given themselves a very narrow window to try and do this with this group. I don't think it's impossible, but it's going to be really tough. So I'm going to say Toronto is, probably too good to miss the playoffs, at least for the regular season. But I don't know, man. Until we're proven otherwise, it's hard to not think about singing that same song in mid-May when they're out of the playoffs. So
yeah, Billy.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's take a break, and we'll hear from Zeno Pucks. When we come back, we will talk about the Metropolitan Division, do our little Blue Jackets corner, and then we'll round out the show by making our official playoff predictions and Stanley Cup predictions.
It's hockey season, and you're looking to work on your stick handling or maybe even your shot, but ice time just isn't an option for you right now. Luckily, our buddies over at Xenopucks have got you covered. They've developed an elite off-ice practice puck that, in addition to looking like the real thing, is the same size and weight as a regulation hockey puck to give you that authentic feel on the end of your stick. It works better than other off-ice practice pucks on almost any surface, whether you use it on hardwood, carpet, concrete, or even asphalt. Xenopucks glide like a real puck on ice. So if you're looking to improve your game without setting foot on the ice, head over to www.xenopucks.com and get yourself a puck. Check out their merch selection and be sure to follow them on Instagram at Xenopucks.
All right, and we're back. So thanks as always to Xenopucks for sponsoring our show. And as we like to say around here, God, we got to get these guys on the podcast.
That should be the slogan of our show.
Yeah. Presented by Xenopucks without words from the guys from Xenopucks.
Yeah, dude, I swear when we get them on here, I'm making them do the Zeno Pucks read.
Yeah, it really it does feel like they should be the ones doing it right. But
Yeah.
man, we really got to get them on here. All right, let's start with the Metro Division and kind of run down the gauntlet. So, as I mentioned before, this will be in alphabetical order, except Columbus, as we are purposely saving them for last. So let's start with Carolina, 47-30-5 for their regular season last year, 99 points in the standings, 4th in the conference, 10th overall. Look, Carolina, we dog on them a lot on this show, and I believe it's justified, but they went out this offseason and they improved in pretty much every way they could. They bring in Keandre Miller from the Rangers through the sign and trade. I think that'll greatly strengthen their defensive core, which is probably already among the best in the league. I wouldn't say probably, it is among the best in the league. They shut it down as well as anybody. I think Rod Brind'Amour's style of coaching will really help morph Keandre Miller into an elite defender as he's entering his prime here too. I know there's some shortcomings that he has, but ultimately I think a coach like RBA is going to be good enough to help get this guy to be one of the premier names in the National Hockey League as far as defenders go. Up front for the Canes, they extend Jackson Blake and Logan Stankoven, and then add Nick Ehlers in the offseason as well, which I think is going to help them continue to develop this offensive identity that they're starting to make and that they've really lacked for several years out of the last decade. Where they should continue to be concerned, though, is this goaltending, man. We dog on it all the time, but it doesn't stop being true. And until it stops being true, we're going to keep mentioning it. I don't know what blackmail Freddie Anderson has on the Canes front office that allows him to keep his job, but this team refuses to let go of him. They just refuse to improve on the goaltending. And it's a little frustrating. And again, we've had this conversation 1,000 times with Colorado specifically, but other teams like Edmonton was another one for the longest time that did nothing to address the goaltending until they brought in Connor Ingram. Like they just keep shooting themselves in the feet. They do. And they're absolutely a playoff team again. In fact, they should probably win the Metro Division, but I just feel like they're destined to have another deep run blow up in their face, likely against Florida or Tampa Bay, because they just will not address this goaltending. This team is so good on paper as far as the forwards and the defenders are concerned, but the goaltending, it's just not good enough, and they refuse to budge on it, and it confuses me, man. Carolina, that team should be this team should be matching up like Game 7 overtime, all 7 games against the Panthers in the conference final every year. And instead they just get run over. They're just clearly a step behind Florida and they will not address it. And it's really irritating to watch as a fan of the sport.
Real quick, before I give my 2 cents, I'd just like to apologize to anybody listening who can hear my cat in the background. I don't know what is up his ass right now, but I can't get him to shut up.
Probably a Hurricanes fan.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm just kidding. He likes the cats.
Oh, he finally just took off and left, but he just keeps showing up here to voice his concerns and then leaving. So I apologize for that. But such as
he's actually going to be the guest on our show following the Jeff Rimmer interview. So
yeah. For those who I've mentioned this on the show before, but for those who don't know and those who question how much we like hockey around here, his name's actually Tuukka, obviously named after Tuukka Rask, legendary Bruins goaltender. But he's a good boy. He can be a pain in the ass. So
gotta get that from his father.
Yeah, that couldn't be me. So anyway, back to your point, Freddie Anderson hasn't been a good goaltender since he was on Anaheim. I mean, that's the last time he was a structurally sound goaltender. And so I think you worded it perfectly with what kind of blackmail does this guy have and on who that he still has a job. I don't know, but I mean, that's where your flaw is right now is your goaltending. Like you said, on paper, this is a great looking team and the on ice product shows it too, with the exception of goaltending. So I'm still not 100% sold on Rod Brind'Amour, which I've said the last couple seasons. And honestly, until he gets it done completely, I won't be. That being said, I think he's a bad coach, not by any stretch. And yeah, you brought up a great point of he is the guy that can, develop Keandre Miller to where he needs to be, because that's a guy right there, good defenseman with a really promising future as long as he can perform to standard. So this is another one of those teams where we could harp on it forever until they fix their goaltending situation. You can't expect any changes. So we'll kind of see how it goes for them. But yeah, do I see him making the playoffs? Absolutely.
Yep, I'll agree with that too. There's no doubt in my mind they'll be in the playoffs. I just, again, question how it'll go for them. Let's move on. New Jersey. So Jersey last year were 42, 33, and 7, 91 points in the standings. It was 7th in the conference. It was 16th overall. And look, man, it's no secret. Last year, the Devils painfully underdelivered, but that was in large part due to injury. No major additions for them really this offseason. They obviously end the Luke Hughes drama, if you even want to call it that, but they lock up Luke Hughes for the next 7 years. And listen, man, I don't have a ton of notes for the Devils because truthfully, if they're healthy, I think the Devils are among the best teams in this league, and I'm really excited to watch them this year. The construction from top to bottom, I think, lends itself to good hard-nosed play, but really skilled and elite scoring. I think they're going to be a special teams nightmare against most teams. And I know Markstrom's aging, but he's still a legit number one goalie. And I think Markstrom is the embodiment of what the Hurricanes think Freddie Anderson is. But like I said, I don't have a ton of notes on Jersey. Just watch out for them because if they're healthy, I'm telling you, this is good enough to be like a top 5 team in the league if they're healthy. And I think they're going to snag one of those top 2 division spots in the Metro division. I think they're that good. I really don't think enough is made about how good the Devils are.
I don't disagree with you at all. I'm 100% on board. It's just that, again, it comes back to, can this team stay healthy? And that's going to be their ultimate downfall because everything else, I don't really have a problem with anything on this team. It just comes down to everybody's health. So I'm with you. I mean, this is a team that, given the right situation and everybody's healthy, this is a team that can make a good playoff run. So, yeah. And I mean, looking at I love the roster, looking at it. I think they are well coached. It's just, it was a tough way for the season for them to end last year. And I'm not a Devils fan, but I mean, the Devils are one of those teams that I do enjoy watching. And I think it's like, for them, it's a matter of time until we see something big out of them. It's just a matter of how soon. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But again, it all comes back to the team's overall health. And, injuries can be, a motherfucker, for lack of a better term. So,
what do you think?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you think? Playoffs or no for the Devils?
I say, yeah. Yeah, I say yes, playoffs.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, not only do I think they can be one of the best teams in the league, but again, they dealt with all those injuries last year and still locked up a playoff spot. If they're healthy, they're so good that it shouldn't even be a question. All right, let's move on then. The Islanders last year, 35, and 12. That was 82 points. 12th in the conference and 23rd overall in the league standings. I was extremely critical of this past offseason of the mess that Lou Lamoriello was kind of leaving behind as he exits his role as the GM of the Islanders. And I think this roster as it is now is kind of proof of that. I think they're poorly coached. I don't think Patrick Waugh is a great coach. Their offense looks like it's going to be extremely anemic. And really is only saved from outright despair because they have a very stout defensive group, which is only going to get better now with Schaefer there, and a world-class goalie. I mean, when Elias Sorokin is on his game, he's one of the best in the business too. So if he's on his game combined with this pretty stout defense, the Islanders can be a serviceable team, but this offense is so sickening to look at. It's just, and not the good kind of sickening, like everything in hockey we say is sick when it's good, but this is sick because it's sickly, gross, depressing, awful. The Islanders don't scare me at all. I think they missed the playoffs last year, and I think they're actually going to have a worse season this year. I'm excited to see what Schaefer can bring with his young talent, but they also extended Alex Romanov there, who again is another great defender, but for all the good things they have on this team, they have an equal amount of really shitty things. I have no desire for anything out of their forward group. Even Barzal, you can do better than.
I'm really glad that you said that you think they're going to have a worse season, because I was going to say the exact same thing, and I didn't want to be alone on that ship. So that makes me feel better.
I think they're in for a rough ride, as we've discussed, ad nauseum this episode. The conference is getting very, very much better around them, and they are not keeping up.
Well, and one thing that I mean, from just a regular hockey fan standpoint, the one thing that's frustrating is they have one thing that we harp on so many teams for not having, and that is solid goaltending. Like you said, Sorokin, when he's on, he's one of the best in the league. So, I mean, they have a good goaltender, and their decor is good too. But the forward group is, I'm laughing because it's laughable. I mean,
it's terrible. I mean,
look
Horvat and Barzal and who else? That's it.
Anders Lee.
Yeah, Anders Lee, and he's on playing on the third line. Like it's just a mess. JG Pageau was good like 7 years ago.
Can't forget Casey Cizikas and Anthony Duclair, the most mid guys to play the game.
I'll never say that about Casey Cizikas. Him and Martin and Clutterbuck were one of the most effective, probably the most effective grinding line in the NHL for half a decade plus. Well, they were. Well, everybody gets old. I mean, Gretzky
I'm talking about right now.
Oh, yeah, I still wouldn't say he's mid. I'd still isn't he like the NHL's all-time leader in hits or one of them? Or no, that might have been Matt Martin. But
yeah, that's not Cizikas.
Either way, he centered one of the most effective lines in the league for a long time, and he's a depth guy. You know what? Depth guys are what they are. Their top six is not a threat against really anybody. Yeah. So I'm going to say no on the playoffs for the Islanders.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't have anything good to say, so yeah. I'll be over here.
And we're about to complete the triple crown of New York teams missing the playoffs. The next team on our list is the New York Rangers. They were 39, 36, and 7 last year. It was 85 whole big points, 11th in the conference, 22nd overall. And to me, it's a fascinating group. I mean, we all remember the letter that Rangers ownership kind of put out to the fans in 2018 or 2019, whenever it was, basically saying, hey, we're going to have to go through a rebuild to turn this team around, and we're going to have a couple of really rocky years, and then it's going to get better. And most of that was true. There were some rocky years, and then it got way better. I mean, they were within a couple games of the Stanley Cup final just 2 seasons ago. And now their fall from grace is happening as quickly as their rise to power was. It felt like they had 2 seasons of real relevance with this now crumbling core, and it's all but vanished completely. I mean, Kreider's gone, Trouba's gone, K'Andre Miller's gone, Ryan Lindgren, when he was good, is gone. And what they have left is Adam Fox, who's still really good, Igor Shesterkin, who's still really good, Vinny Trocheck, who's on the back 9, Mika Zibanejad, who is playing at a way lower level than he should be, at least as far as last season goes. He kind of had a little bit of a fall-off. We have Artemi Panarin, who turns 34 in a couple weeks and is not a lock to stay in New York. Like, that's what's left from this group that was 2 wins from the Stanley Cup final just 2 seasons ago. Lafreniere, it looks like he's plateaued. It does not look like he's going to be the player that they hoped he was going to be when they drafted him first overall. And he's not a bad player, but he's not a first line right wing caliber level player.
Right.
But hey, you know what? They brought JT Miller back to be the captain. So that's fun.
I mean, that was a good move, though. I did like that move.
You need vibes, guys, and maybe I shouldn't be so harsh on them for that. You do need guys, and you know what? JT Miller was there when they went to the final 11 years ago or whatever it was. Like, he's not a bad player, but man, it just seems like another move and amongst a huge mess of moves in this team. Really, like I said, I mean, they bring in Vlad Gavrikov too for 7 years to bolster the back end, which is good because, again, you lose K'Andre Miller, you lose Ryan Lindgren over the last couple of years. Like, it's kind of blown up in their face, and they've done little to address the scoring woes. They lost Hedel, and who was, having health issues of his own anyways for a while. They extend Will Cooley, but again, even then, that's a guy that I'm not like, he's not scaring me on any particular night. And so, again, they're left with a pretty okay defense group, a world-class goalie, and then like one good scoring line. And to me, what am I going to say? The conference is getting better and they aren't keeping up.
Yeah. I'm noticing a trend here.
Yeah.
Either that or there's an echo in the room.
Yeah. You know what? Let me put it this way. This is like the Bruins last year. This was another example of an original 16 that's way under delivering to its fans. The difference for the Bruins is I do think they're going to be better this year. For the Rangers, bringing in Vlad Gavrikov to bolster the back end and cover your loss of K'Andre Miller is good. Bringing in Mike Sullivan to be your coach, I think, is good. But I don't think there's a lot of hope for this team to make the playoffs the way it's constructed, man. There are worse teams out there like Buffalo, but I don't know, man. This is not good enough to make the playoffs.
So I have to quickly, as Brian loves to say this to me, not when we're not on this show, but here comes the backpedal. I earlier stated that I didn't think Detroit was better than the Rangers, but Detroit's better than the Rangers. I mean, you sit here and you look at all this crap. First of all, there's one thing I need to address because it's been pissing me off since day one, and I got to say it. Get Matt Rempe off this team. Get Matt Rempe out of the NHL. The guy's a loser. He's a scrub. He's a bum, whatever. He's not even that good of a fighter. So this guy is just he's wasting a roster spot. He's doing nothing to help your team. Just get him out of here. There's one issue right there out of the gate. But to your point, this team's a threat to nobody. I am on the other side of the spectrum as you. I think they will have a better season this year. Do I think they make the playoffs? No, I say no chance.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the same boat on. I don't think there's enough there for them to make the playoffs. I think they'll probably be right around where they were last year this season, maybe a little bit better, but it's to me, it's still too much a mess. I mean, that they have like an ECHL second line. I mean, it's not great there. And maybe I shouldn't say that. I do like guys like Trocheck's a good player, but I don't know. Like the Rangers leave a lot to be desired. The second line there, Daily Faceoff shows them. Actually, I just looked this up. Second line shows Will Cooley, JT Miller, and Connor Sherry. Now, I assume somewhere in there is Vinny Trocheck, or is supposed to be Vinny Trocheck, but this third line, Taylor Radish, Juuso Parssinen, Noah Laba. I've never even heard of Laba or Laba. Fourth line, Adam Edstrom, Sam Carrick, Matt Rempe. Like, it's just messy. And even the back end, like Vlad Gavrikov and Adam Fox. Okay, so what's behind them? Euro Vakanainen and Braden Schneider. And you can make that work. And then Matthew Robertson and Will Borgen. Yay. It's maybe slightly above average, maybe right around average. And then again, Igor, when he's on his game, is again top 5 goalie in the league. So, and Jonathan Quick had played excellent there last year, all things considered. But this team is just not enough to make the playoffs. It's not good enough. All right, let's move on to Philly. So Philly last year, the Flyers were 33, 39, and 10. It was 76 points in the standings. That was dead last in the conference, 29th overall. The Flyers season just kind of blew up in their face last year. And rather than dwell on that, I think it's important to come at this from a different angle and just say, look, there's a culture change happening in Philly, and it's not going to be overnight. But their return to relevance is not as far away as it probably looks on paper to most people. They are one of the younger teams in the league overall, which helps when you're trying to develop a contender. But with budding young talent like Mishkov and Drysdale and Bobby Brink and Owen Tippett and Cam York, who just extended there too, like they have those young guys and they have Talk at the helm. And I think they're just destined for a quick turnaround. I don't have too much basis in fact with that, but it just seems like the turnaround is going to be quicker than most people are ready for. And I'll be fascinated to see what Ersson and Vladar can do as a goalie tandem. I feel like they're going to be able to flourish if they do kind of a 1A, 1B goalie setup, but Philly's not as bad as their last in the conference finish to last season would lead you to believe. They did some business this offseason too, locking up Cam York and Tyson Forster, Noah Cates for the next couple of years. And again, far from perfect. I'm not saying they're like a cup contender, but I could see them being a dark horse to snatch one of those wild card spots. A lot's going to have to fall in their favor. But I can see a path to the postseason with this group under an elite coach like Rick Tocchet is.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that they have going for them right now is Rick Tocchet. I mean, and I said it last year too. I was all for Tocchet going to Philly. I think that was the best thing for them. It's a good fit for him and the team. He's a great coach. I think he's got the capabilities of helping this team develop to where it needs to be. Looking at the roster, it's not a horrible roster. And as far as the goalie tandem, like you said, with a 1A, 1B type situation, it really gives them that opportunity to flourish because neither of these guys are elite goaltenders by any stretch, but they're good enough that you alternate them out, and you've probably got a good thing going for you there. And I mean, Dan Vladar, I like getting to see him get his chance. He was one of those guys. He was very good when he was in the minors. So I
thought
think
he was good with Calgary too. Like I didn't think he was bad on Calgary.
Right, but Calgary wasn't good in front of him. So it's weird. I do think, like you said, this is they're going in the right direction, and a 180 is not as far away as one might think it is. I don't necessarily disagree with you with them being, as you said, a dark horse to snag a wild card spot. I'm just not so sure that I believe that they will.
No, and that's fair. I think me calling them a dark horse, I think, is kind of a stretch, but I also wanted to have a little pizzazz to this conference. Just because really to me, and again, not that I'm any intelligent hockey mind, but to me, it just, of all the teams that I think are going to miss the playoffs, and ultimately I think Philly still will miss the playoffs. I think of all the teams that I have missing the playoffs, to me, it just makes the most sense for them to be a dark horse. And now I say all that after I called Montreal a good team, and I could just as easily see Montreal turn into ship and really run it up the standings. But as far as teams that were especially like way out of it last year, like Philly was, the turnover, it just makes a lot of sense. There's so much good talent there that it has unrealized potential because of the system they ran under our buddy Torts. And I think Talk's really going to turn this around. I'm really excited to see what he can do with a happier, emotionally stable Trevor Zegras, who now gets to play with his best buddy Drysdale in Philly. So I think it's all going to work out there. I didn't even mention Zegras in that list of young talent there. But that's just another guy who, if they can find the right fit for him, that's another guy. We know he's got the hands and the mitts. Can they develop his offensive game to be complete and not just about the flashy moves? I don't know, man. I think I really think this. Granted, I don't like Philly, and I don't want the turnaround to be quick. But being as objective as I can here, it just makes the most sense to me.
See, for me, well, and I'm with you on that, but I still don't think they snag a wild card spot this year. My full belief is, and I know we'll get to Columbus, but my thing is, I think if Columbus doesn't snag one of the wild card spots, I think both wild card spots go to Atlantic Division teams.
Oh, we're gonna get to Columbus. Don't worry, I can't wait. We only got a couple teams separate.
I know. I've been waiting, man. I've been waiting.
All right, let's move on from Philly, though. Ultimately, like I said, they're a dark horse for me, but I don't think they make it in, and we'll complete this painting here as we get to these last couple teams. Pittsburgh is next on our list. The Penguins last year were 34, 36, and 12, 80 points overall. That was 13th in the conference and 24th in the league standings. Look, I want to kind of come at this Penguins preview with a different mindset, because everybody's talked about the 800 different Sidney Crosby trade speculations. And so I kind of want to approach this from let's just pretend he's staying, because I ultimately think he's going to. Let's at least go from it. And I kind of think you're the same way, where it just doesn't seem like he's going to go anywhere, as fun as it might be. I think the Penguins are going to be tough to watch. You know, you look at the forward group with Sid and Gino still being as elite as they are. So you would assume like this team is pretty good and they have a good shot at the playoffs, especially when they just added a potentially great goalie in Artur Shilovs. But the defense group looks to be their fatal flaw there. Carlson has notoriously not worked out as well as they had hoped. And the clock is ticking on Chris Letang's career. Like, he's not going to play forever, especially because he's battled injuries the entirety of his career. I don't think he's got much longer in the tank, which by itself would be a problem, having your two best defenders having health issues or underperforming issues. That alone is a problem. But when you combine that with the rest of the defense core being rookies and subpar average Joe kind of defenders, it seems like they're going to have some issues, and especially with Jari being the backup there. Don't even get me started there. This is the last year of Malkin's deal. It sounds like this is it for him, and I would have really enjoyed some last dance vibes from the Penguins, but Kyle Dubas, the GM there, rightfully or wrongfully, has not given the Penguins the tools they needed for one last legit run with these three stars. And as we've said 800 times, this conference is now too deep to be half-assing anything. And I can appreciate that the Penguins are more so going the direction of a rebuild and trying to get the franchise set up for the next 20 years of potential greatness. And I can appreciate that. But when you have Sid and Gino and Letang, like you gotta make a winner, man. You just have to. So it's kind of been a letdown to see this And it almost seems like they're doomed for another season and no playoffs, which is really too bad. And if Malkin's final year is just the Penguins falling further into irrelevancy. Also, the Ryan Grace contract sucks, but they waived him, so I won't pick on him for it anymore.
Yeah. Just from a fan of the game standpoint, like you and I aren't Pens fans, and I'll go as far as to say I can't stand the Pens, and that mostly just comes from watching them kick everybody's ass for so many years.
Yeah. It's funny, real quick. I just want to say, young hockey fans don't understand this. Like kids that are like 13 years old don't understand. Nobody looked forward to the fucking Penguins coming to town for like 10 years straight. I mean, they're so annoying to play against.
And I think that's where so much of the hatred for Sidney Crosby came from. Granted, he was a whiner, absolutely, but
he's matured a lot as a player, absolutely.
Yeah, he has. But I mean, you said he's on my Mount Rushmore for hockey, without a doubt. And that's such a tough thing to say and make it accurate Mount Rushmore for hockey, because you only get 4 spots, and you just think about all the talent you've seen over the years. But with Gino and Sid and Letang, I mean, these are guys that you grew up watching, and this is another one of those situations, like kind of how I felt with like Pavelski too. It sucks to see him leave the league, because it's almost like you're watching your youth leave, in a sense. So that sucks. And I mean, there's a lot of great young talent in this league that's going to develop. It's by no means going to be a letdown, but those 3 guys right there, when you think Pittsburgh Penguins, obviously you think Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr, obviously, but you think Sid, Gino, Letang, and the fact that they've been able to play together for so long is something that I think maybe we as hockey fans may have taken for granted. And now that we're at the end of the road, it's kind of like, oh shit, where's it going from here? So I'm with you that, I would have liked to kind of see the Last Dance type of vibe too. It would have been really cool. As far as the Sidney Crosby situation goes, I don't think I'm with you. He's going to stay put. The only way I could see them ever trading him is if, he's like, I'm done. I'm out of here after this. And they're like, all right, let's give this guy one last shot at a cup. And they send him to a real contender. But I mean, even at that point, he ain't sending him to Florida. They don't have room for him financially. Man, it's kind of weird to see that this Penguins team come to this demise. And I feel like demise is a strong word, but I can't really think of another word for it. It's just, you think about where this team was 10 years ago. And like you said, everybody hated seeing the Pens come to town because you knew you were just going to get hosed. And now it's like, they're one of the teams where I'm like, all right, we're playing the Penguins. It is what it is. So that's where I sit with the Penguins right now. And again, this is another team where most likely they miss the playoffs.
I'm going to take a quick aside here. And when Sid finally retires, we'll go through his, we'll do the whole shebang. We'll talk about
a whole episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about his great seasons and his great runs and all the accolades and stuff he had. But this just this quick aside, Sidney Crosby in the playoffs alone, just the playoffs for his career, has scored 201 points in 180 playoff games. Most guys that make this league don't even do that in the regular season, dude. That's correct. Crazy. I cannot believe how good this player is.
Well, and that's
there's going to have to be a discussion when Sid retires, especially if he can find a way to win one more Stanley Cup before he retires. There's going to have to be a serious discussion on if this guy's the best player that's ever played this game, because the more I look at this, the more I'm like, dude, it's really hard to make a case for anybody else. And I mean, we always talk about the what ifs with Mario Lemieux, and obviously Wayne had, the most points of all time, and won 4 Stanley Cups in his own right. We're gonna have to start having this conversation of if Sid is even better than that, because wow, is this a laundry list of shit that this guy has done in his career? Holy crap!
I mean, if you ask me now, granted, we need to take into effect that Connor McDavid is still playing hockey, but there's still a career to go.
Skill-wise, McDavid might be the most skilled player.
Yeah.
Nobody skates. He's got the speed in his skates and his hands. Nobody can match that. I think McDavid is the most technically skilled player in this game's history, but the best overall, man.
Yeah.
I'm really quickly thinking it's Sid, man. This is an unbelievable list of shit that this guy has done.
I think if you're a logical hockey fan, you agree with that statement. It, I mean, it's unreal. It's nauseating to look at his stat sheets, and I mean, just his list of accolades. I always want to say accolades. I just don't see it. That's why I say for me, it's a no brainer putting him on the Hockey Mount Rushmore. He's on there. Yeah,
I would put him up there with like Gretzky, Lemieux, and Bobby Orr. I would say. I think that's the easy. Ken Dryden's another good name to go up there, but he didn't play as long. Well, Bobby didn't play that long either, though. So it's. But I mean, and Mario really, his career was shortened too. Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? I would probably say Sid, Lemieux, Gretzky, and Bobby Orr. I would want to put Ken Dryden up there, but for me, it's harder to put a goalie up there, especially. The problem is, though, Ken Dryden just didn't fucking lose. I think he won. I think what he played 8 or 9 years, and he won like 6 or 7 Stanley Cups or something stupid.
Yeah,
like that. That's a tough one too. I don't know. That's a conversation we'll have to have one day as a true hockey Mount Rushmore. But I just wanted to take that quick aside to say that as much as we appreciate Sid being one of the best in the game, I still think you could make the argument that this guy is not underrated. That's not the right word, but is not talked about enough how truly unbelievably otherworldly, one of a kind great this guy is.
Yeah. So, sorry. I'm trying to keep this wild animal at bay right now.
You're fair. You have a feral cat in your room.
Yeah. I don't know what his issue is, man.
Well, we went from a team with quite a few generational talents. We're going to go next to a team that has just the one generational talent, but boy, is he a talent. Ovechkin and the Capitals. So the Caps last year were 51, 22, and 9. That was 111 points. First in the conference, second overall in the standings. By the way, no playoffs for the Penguins for you too, right?
Yeah, no for the Penguins.
I thought so, but we got so distracted with Sid, then I forgot. As if I didn't pull us off course there. Yeah, I steered us into the ditch and blamed everyone else. All right, so Washington had a great year last year. I don't think anybody expected them to be within a couple points of the President's Trophy or win the conference or anything like that. But it was a great year for the Caps last year. I mean, just with the great chase with Ovi and all that, it was a good year for the Caps. So, they had not only the great chase, what else was there? Dubois had a good year last year for them. Protas had a really, really good season, kind of came out of left field. Dylan Strome had a great year too, especially given that he was just planted on the top line. They're like, look, Backstrom's done. Here you go. It's your job to feed Ovi. Now figure it out. And he did. And he didn't break under the pressure. He had an outstanding year, I thought. The Logan Thompson deal for them has looked really good for them. Ryan Leonard is making his debut at the Capitals. Like, he looks like again another guy who could be a career Capital as a big scoring threat. I think we're kind of starting to see this next generation of Caps, but like overall they had just a wildly good year last year in the regular season.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, I really ended up eating my words about Pierre-Luc Dubois last season. I think a lot of us did.
Yeah, a lot of people did. You know what? That was more of an indictment on him, though, given his track record. I don't. Anybody that said anything bad about him going into last season, I wouldn't throw it back in their face and be like, "Look how wrong you were." You should be like, "Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised that this guy got correct together." Yeah, that should not be an indictment on anybody that said that against him. I think that's more on the player than the people who said it about him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really got to commend him. I mean, he really did a 180, and he looked great, and he had a great season with, like you said, he really filled into his role there really well, and the Caps came out and had a season way above everybody's expectations. And I mean, last year, like you said, it was just so fun to watch with Ovi and the goal chase, and now that he's accomplished that, now we're looking forward to seeing him hit 900 and see how many he's actually going to get before he calls it a career. My wife and I were going to the Caps are playing the Blue Jackets on the 24th of this month, and we're going to go to that game because I've never seen Ovi play in person, and I want to. And being that this is his last season, this is going to be my only chance. So, yeah, but like you said, back down, Logan Thompson's really done good things for them there. I'm actually a pretty decent fan of Charlie Lindgren too. I think that's, as far as backups go, that's solid for them too. This team overall, I really think, especially after the way they performed last year, I think this is a team that actually, they're capable of doing damage. It's just a matter of getting the job done at the end of the day once the playoffs roll around. But again, PLD is great fit there. Ovi obviously showing no signs of slowing down at 40 years old is just unheard of. I don't know, man. I don't really have anything bad to say about this team. I'm really intrigued to see how they go last year. And again, this is, we talked about the Last Dance vibes for Sid. This is kind of what I'm almost expecting to see out of the Caps this year with Ovechkin. So either way, it's going to be a good run no matter what, just because it's going to be the Ovi show again. But yeah, I think there's good things on the horizon.
No, definitely. I think, first of all, I think there's a lot of just really good young talent with the Caps. So I think watching them attempt to assemble a contender or a champion around these younger players, like I mentioned, guys like Ryan Leonard and Protas, and I mean Dylan Strome's not an old guy either. Like, they have some good young players there. I think it's going to be fun to watch them build around what they have. And they extended Faravari in the offseason, a good deal for him to stay there 7 more years. John Carlson still looks good. I mean, he's getting up there in age, but he doesn't look, he's still a top pairing defender. Sandin has worked out really well for them since coming over from Toronto. Matt Roy was already good when he came over. Is it Roy or Roy? I don't know.
I thought it was Wah, but I'm not gonna lie.
I know Nick Wah in Toronto. That's Wah, but I don't know if it's Matt Wah. I think he was in LA before, right? I want to say it's Wah.
I just assume everybody with that last name is Wah, and that's
you're probably right. But Derek Roy kind of screwed that up for a lot of hockey fans. So that was back in the day, though. But again, he's another one. Wah is a great defender. Chikrin has worked out fabulously for them. And TVR, I think he was on their Stanley Cup team. There's just some good talent here. Now, I'll say all of that to say this too. I mean, they kind of went on a big PDO bender all of last season. And to clarify for those of you, PDO is basically a stat that just tracks your team's shooting percentage combined with your team's save percentage. So basically, the higher your PDO is, generally speaking, the better your team is in the standings. And the Caps were very favorable in that department last year. They were a top 5 team in PDO. They had a really good shooting percentage, even though their total save percentage wasn't great because Charlie Lindgren's stats were slipped a little bit last year, but Logan Thompson was so unbelievable for them. It kind of bridged the gap anyways. I don't think the Caps will be a PDO monster like they were last year. But still, as they continue to play and grow together, I think they're going to get better. And so even though I don't see them leading the conference again this year, I think the results will continue to be there for this team, and they're going to be good. And I think they're a lock for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think you worded it perfectly. There's no way this team doesn't make the playoffs. Again, is it going to be to the same extent as it was last year? I don't want to say no, yes or no. I think that's just one of those things time will tell, but for sure playoffs for Washington this year, no question.
All right. Well, that leaves one team left. It's funny, actually. To this point, I've predicted 7 of the 8 playoff spots for the Eastern Conference. There's only one playoff spot left to be predicted, and there's only one team we haven't previewed. So I'll kind of give you the spoiler right there that I think the last team we're going to talk about is going to be in the playoffs.
Yes.
The last team to talk about, and this will start our Blue Jackets corner, is, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the Jackets last year, 40, 33, and 9, 89 points, which was 9th in the conference, 20th overall. Just missed the playoffs, man. That was a tough way for them to miss it, let's be honest. Jet went 5 games in a row to close out the year or whatever.
Yeah, 2 of them were back-to-back shutouts.
Yeah, and the team won 6. I think Elvis came in and had one really big game for them too. Just a fun season given what they were up against last year. Way exceeded everyone's expectations. I mean, they made the season worthwhile. That Stadium Series game was a time in my life I'll never forget. The vibes were just as positive as they could be all year. They really were. I think the fans came together, the Blue Jackets community between the team and the fans. I think everybody came together, and it was they made the most of the situation they had last year. And it just kind of sucked that it didn't end in a playoff run of any kind.
Yeah. But again, they far exceeded everybody's expectations too. And like I said, they came together in the face of adversity, and I always say sports teams in general thrive, after a tragedy. I don't know what it is. Yeah, some people argue divine intervention, whatever it may be, but this team really came together last year, and I liked what they saw, and it really showed us what they're truly capable of. And there wasn't any like major changes in the offseason. I think ultimately, like you brought it up on I think it was our last episode. You brought up, you invest in the team, the young talent that you have now, invest in them now. Especially if it's, you believe this is a team that can truly get this done in the future. I like where this team sits right now, man. And they really did the right thing giving Jet that roster spot. Granted, he 100% earned it. I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to debate that. But that was, probably one of the biggest steps in the right direction they could have taken. And
they made Jet the opening night starter, which didn't yield the result they wanted, but it's definitely the right move and a good vote of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and they looked real good against Minnesota last night. And I'm not dogging on your team, but part of that too was Minnesota didn't look good.
Well, I would say this much that I wouldn't say it's completely true. What got lost in the 7-4 final score is the fact that the Wild had 52 shots. The Wild shelled them last night, but couldn't. Yeah. They couldn't keep the fucking puck out of the net. Was their downfall. Yeah. I mean, they pressed all game long. They really did. They just could not find a way around Elvis of all goalies.
And it is that. I mean, that is what. But that's the thing with Elvis too. I mean, he's either on or he's not. Yeah,
Elvis had a great game. The rest of the team in front of him, it was nice to see them find a way to score 7 goals. I was like, all right, this is everything you're hoping for. But letting in four goals and in 52 shots, that's a pretty damning performance from the defense. So that's got to be better. But you know what? You're 2 games in. You don't want to overreact to any single result either, especially when you win.
Well, and one thing I want to point out, because I don't think it's something that we've ever directly addressed on this show too. We do a Blue Jackets corner on this podcast, and I'm a Panthers fan and you're a Wild fan, but we're both Blue Jackets fans. The reason we do this segment on the show is because we both live in Ohio. This is an Ohio-based podcast, and
common ground, man.
And and people will probably ask, how do you root for 2 teams? It's simple. I'm a Panthers fan first, so if the Panthers play the Blue Jackets, I root for the Panthers. I'm not necessarily saying I'm rooting against the Jackets, but I'm going to root for my number 1 team, obviously. However, I still very much like the Jackets. I love going to games. I think it's I've been to several arenas throughout the league, and I think the Jackets, Columbus is one of the best places to watch a hockey game that I've been. The fans are incredible. The team's incredible. And just everything about it is great. So I can honestly say I really do love this team through all their flaws and whatever have you. Look, I stuck by the Panthers who were talking about relocating. So Columbus really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't have it that bad.
No, it doesn't. And I would say, to get more towards just the hockey side specifically, like this is going to be a pretty good team. I don't want to invest too much into what things look like coming off last season just because of the emotions of last season. But you watch the way they play, you watch how they practice in training camp, you watch kind of how things go in preseason, you watch the flow of these first couple games. And, as much as I'll dog them for allowing 52 shots against, and the same, at the same time, if there's a game where you're going to give up that many shots, at least it's the game you score 7 goals. Like these guys are so young, and even the young crew is showing early signs of being a resilient group and not getting rattled in tough situations. The couple of the goals they let in against the Wild, I wasn't crazy about. Like I didn't think they were great goals from the defense or from Elvis, and those are kind of the ones that can rattle your confidence. And yet the Jackets, they just seemed persistent, and they seemed like, you know what? Yeah, that we gave up a soft one, but we've been keeping pretty good pressure. And every time I think at one point they responded like 40 seconds after one of the Wild goals. So they're not letting anything rattle them, which is a good sign to see from a team that's this young.
Correct. Yeah. And that goes back to our point of earlier. You invest in the young talent you have now. And that, they've got some good prospects down in the minors too. And fortunately, you and I, we have a front row seat to that going to Monsters games because we live in the Cleveland area. So I feel like that kind of gives us a boost as far as the segment of this show goes too. It kind of gives us more insight as to what this team has in store for it moving forward. So, yeah, and I'm just, we're very fortunate to live where we live and be able to be, invested in this organization. They're a fun group, man. And I'm excited to see what they do. And I think ultimately this year, they're going to snag that last wild card spot. I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at with them too. And you mentioned not only are they counting on the talent that they've drafted and developed, but look at the guys they bring in. Ivan Provorov comes over after, where was he, Philly beforehand. And Dante Fabro last year coming over from Nashville. Well, in this offseason, Provorov extends for 7 more years. Fabro extends for 4 more years. So, I mean, not only are they investing in the guys that they have drafted and developed, but they're getting return on investment from the guys that they've brought in from the outside too. I mean, it just seems like everything's clicking in their fashion. And when we talk about the other teams and we're trying to be a little more neutral because we don't really cheer for or against them for the most part, it's easy to hang on, how should I phrase this? This made more sense in my head the way I was going to put this. Here, let me come at it from this angle. Let me kind of refresh here. So the Jackets have invested from within, and they're getting return on investment from outside assets. And people on the outside don't see this. Even if they're people that are neutral hockey fans, they'll see this and they'll say, oh, it's the Jackets. They have a couple really good young players, but look at the results the last few years. They're not making the playoffs. I don't feel like I should fear them. And as neutral hockey fans on the other side, like, what's a perfect example when we talk about the other teams in this conference? Like, for me, I don't have any dog in the fight against Ottawa, but somebody on the inside in Ottawa may say, hey, we have this prospect and this prospect and this prospect coming through the pipeline. And Batherson's going to be sick this year and Brady Tkachuk's going to score, we think he can score 50 goals. Like, I don't get that point of view of the Senators because I don't watch enough of their games to make that statement. So when I make these statements about the Jackets being this good, I don't want people to just think I'm some misguided idiot. Like, this is just evidence from watching this. So some of this stuff may not seem as apparent to somebody on the outside, but to us, I just feel like this is such an exciting time to be a fan of this team.
Absolutely. And I got to say too, and we've said this a couple of times, but that outdoor game against Detroit last year that we went to with our wives and our buddy and his girlfriend, that was one of the best hockey experiences I've ever had in my life. If you take away the fact that I think almost everybody in that stadium was damn near getting frostbite.
Freezing, yeah.
So, yeah. But I mean, just the vibes were incredible. The presentation, just everything was phenomenal. And the one thing, the Jackets being a small market team, they put so much into the fan experience. And that really does go a long way. And the Jackets fan base, is very deserving of it. They're a very devoted fan base. And I think if you've been to a game there, you'll agree with us. You'll agree with us on that. It's usually a full house or damn near close to it every night of the week. So this really is a special organization. And I don't think that, given the struggles they had, they're still not a team to be taken lightly, especially now that they're on the up and up, which whether or not you believe that, I can assure you they are. So again, I'm very confident that they snag a wild card spot this season.
Yeah, no, me too. And that's why what I said before, I kind of hope it makes sense. Like, I feel like we're really gassing this up, but we're obviously way more neutral on these other teams. So when we make predictions about them, maybe they don't seem as bold, but it's kind of the nature of the beast. It's just we don't watch those teams quite as much, so it's easier for us to gas up a team we watch. I mean, I think the exception for me maybe was New Jersey. Like, I'm extremely high on New Jersey because I've seen what's there, and I've seen moments of brilliance from this group, and I just know it's there. But like from Columbus too, it's kind of the same thing. You see the way Fantilli plays night in and night out, and you can see him getting better game by game, and people on the outside just don't see that. So I don't want people to hear this take and think it's outrageous that we think the Jackets could be in the playoffs, because I can already hear the feedback. So I don't know, maybe this is just me being overly defensive of this young team trying to protect them, but
I don't think so at all.
I don't want anybody to think our opinion on this is unwarranted, because I mean, as much as we do like them, this is my genuine belief is that these guys are good enough to grab one of those 2 wild card spots. I think the Metro is going to be tough. I mean, Carolina, New Jersey, and Washington. I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to say Washington. Carolina, New Jersey, and Washington all probably going to be in that top 3 mix, but the Jackets are good enough where they can hang in there with those guys. They really are.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it doesn't matter. I think the Atlantic's going to own the league this year. Or not necessarily own, but be the dominant force in the league this year. But yeah,
I was thinking that was going to be the Central, actually.
Oh, well,
Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, and Winnipeg. That's a pretty heavy bunch. And then St. Louis is pretty good. Utah is kind of a toss up right now. I mean, Nashville and Chicago are the only 2 really in that division that aren't a big threat right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is one of those things. Time will tell. We're not even a full week into the season yet, so we got a long way to go.
Yep. So, but yeah, I think we can both agree that Columbus, it's gonna take some hard work. I mean, everybody's gonna again have really good seasons. Most of the team had a great season last year. I think Jets play is gonna have to be brilliant as it was late in last season. I'm not saying he has to go undefeated, but if he is going to be the starter, I mean, he's going to have to win probably 32, 33 games. And Elvis, if he's going to be the backup the whole year, he's going to need to win 10, 12 games. Like, it's going to be a battle if they're going to make it in, but I have no doubts that they can do it. They're already showing signs that they can. They're not perfect, but especially the youngsters, man, I cannot believe how smooth these guys look. They look like Fantilli. He looks like he's already been playing for 10 years. He's already getting better that quick.
Yeah. The fire is already lit. We just need somebody to dump gas on it.
Yeah. So it's coming soon, hopefully. But so let's quickly run through this then. We'll pick out our 8 playoff teams each, and we'll go kind of in the order that we did this show. So what do you think? Boston, yes or no on playoffs?
Yes.
Buffalo, no.
Absolutely.
Okay, we can both agree. For you, Detroit, yes or no?
I think so. Detroit, I think it's going to be a close one. I want to point out, I would love to see them make it this year, but I'm gonna say no.
Okay, so you've kind of changed course a little. Then.
I mean, my initial opinion
daily face off and got a little sick, didn't you?
Well, no, it was just that my initial opinion is my biased opinion and what I want to see from them.
That's fair.
But I think when you sit back and you take a look at everything and analyze what they are, what they have done, and what they have going for them right now, I think ultimately they come up just short.
No, that's fair.
Panthers, yes.
Montreal for you?
No.
Oh, you're gonna say no on Montreal? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Ottawa?
No.
No, Ottawa. Tampa Bay?
Yes.
Toronto?
Yes.
All right.
So I got 4 coming out of the Atlantic.
Yeah, so you got 4 out of the Atlantic. All right. And then for the Metro, Carolina.
Yes.
Columbus. You just said yes. Jersey.
Yes.
And I believe you said yes to Washington earlier, correct?
That's correct. So the other ones are no.
So yeah, the New Yorks and Philly and Pittsburgh will be out. I'm pretty much in the same boat, actually. I have Boston, Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and then Carolina, Columbus, Jersey, and Washington. I'm telling you, man, I really think Jersey's going to be one of the best teams in the league. I don't think people understand how good that team really is.
I would really like
the thing that's going to hold them back is the fucking coach. But that's a good team, and I think even with Keefe behind the bench, I don't want to say he's a bad coach, but there are just better options out there. I still think Jersey's going to be one of the best teams in the league.
I would really like to see them. I would really like to see that out of them. I would really like to see what they're capable of, given the opportunity to do so. Not without all the injuries and everything. I'm right there with you, man. You're saying you're so high on New Jersey. I don't think it's unwarranted. I think you're pretty much hitting the nail right on the head with it. That's a team that if they're healthy, they got a chance to do some real damage here.
I'm less scared of Carolina than I am of Jersey. I'll put it that way.
I say it every year. I think Carolina are frauds. Once the playoffs roll around, it's downhill.
I don't even think downhill, but they just can't beat when they get to the Final Four. They can't beat the other 3 teams that are better than them.
Oh yeah,
they just can't. I mean, they just each time no chance. The Bruins, they got killed. The Panthers, both times they got killed. I mean, it's not been close. It has not been close. And hell, even if you want to go back to the pre-Brindamore coaching days, and was it 2009 or whatever, they got killed in the conference final then too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Jersey's a wagon. But so we made our picks for the West before. Now we've made our picks for the East. Now let's hear your essentially preseason Stanley Cup final matchup. Who do you got for the final, and who do you got winning it all this year?
All right. This is going to sound biased, but I want you to know that I truly, firmly believe that coming out of the East is going to be Florida. I think Florida is going to win the East. Obviously it's going to be a weird season without Barkov, but I think ultimately, that's what's going to happen, especially if he's back in time for the playoffs. Out of the West, that's a tough call for me out of the West. Because you mentioned the Central earlier. There are some very serious teams. Could I see it being Edmonton again? Yeah. However, I think you're not going to like who I'm going to say. I'm gonna take a bold stance here, and I'm gonna say Dallas.
I don't think that's a bold stance. I was actually going to pick the same matchup. I was thinking it's it's pretty easy. I think until someone gives you a reason to not say Florida, you pick Florida, 2-time defending champ. Like to me, that seems like the favorable pick. The only hurdle the Panthers will have, first of all, will be Barkov's health if he can come back for the playoffs. But the other side of that coin is they've now, with including the one they lost to Vegas, they've been to 3 finals in a row. They played a lot of hockey the last, by the time playoffs start, they played a lot of hockey in over 4 seasons. That can take a wear on you. So that's the only way I could see them being an early out is if just the amount of hockey they played is worn them too thin. But if they get Barkov back and you get a fully healthy Barkov who hasn't played 1 regular season game back for the playoffs, that's not bad either. So I'm going to go with Florida in the East, and in the West, to me, it's between Dallas and Vegas. I think Vegas is probably as stacked as anybody, but Dallas has them beat in net right now, and Dallas did bolster that defense group in the offseason. And and even with Glenn Gulletson being back behind the bench there, while he's not my favorite option for coach,
he's better than who they had.
Yeah, I think it's a better look than DeBoer. I just think a different set of eyes and a different mind was what was needed there. It's an elite team, but it just wasn't the right match. And I think that's all it comes down to with Dallas and DeBoer. And I'm not saying Glenn Gulletson will be the correct match, but them going at this with a different mind, being at the top of this already very talented roster. I think it might be exactly what they need. They've come up short against Vegas a couple times, and they've beaten them as well. They've come up short against the Oilers the last couple of years now, but I would say are just as talented as the Oilers and have the ability to beat them. So I'm going to go with Dallas. I think it's probably their year. I think this kind of feels like it's their year.
I don't hate your decision. And I honestly wouldn't have necessarily disagreed if you said Vegas either. I think that's, a good option. But again, like you said, Dallas has got them beat in the goaltending department. So
they do. In a Stanley Cup final matchup, give me Dallas to break the dynasty.
Stanley Cup final matchup, I'm gonna go. And this is biased, but give me Florida.
3-peat, let's go.
Give me the Panthers 3-peat in 6 games. So,
dude, you could inject the Panthers beating Dallas in the Stanley Cup final right into my veins.
Yeah, I figured. And again, this has got to go back to if, and it's a big if, because 3-peating is incredibly difficult and incredibly rare. So if the Panthers are able to pull it off, they will, hands down, no question, go down as one of the greatest teams of all time from this generation.
Just kidding. The final this year is going to be Minnesota and Jersey because that's what I want.
That, I wouldn't hate that. I'd like it for you because you're a Wild fan and you're my brother. So I would support you for that. And I think it'd be fun. Like I said, it'd be fun to see what Jersey's capable of. Yeah. So, that
would actually be a really good final matchup. That would be a lot of fun.
We've said this.
It'd be terrible for TV ratings.
Yeah, but I mean, look at what the Panthers and Oilers did this year. Yeah,
God forbid those $12 billion contracts don't pay off or whatever. Kiss my ass with these TV ratings.
But we say this every year. It's going to be a good season, and it just seems to get crazier and crazier every year. The faster and more aggressive this game gets. So buckle up, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. This is going to be fun. So, we've survived the onslaught. How long have we been recording? We made it in a shave under 2 hours. Good for us.
Yeah.
So hey, next Sunday, Jeff Rimmer going to be our special guest on the podcast. I don't know how much actual hockey talk we'll get in next week as far as stuff going on in the league currently. Obviously, we're going to want to talk to Jeff about his life and his career, and then obviously we'll spend quite a bit of time talking Blue Jackets with him. But we'll see what else we can squeeze in the episode next week. But very excited to be having him on as our guest.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And just been talking to him, I can tell. I've been talking to him the last week or so, and it's going to be a good show. And I know we have a lot of Jackets fans that listen to the show that are very much looking forward to it. And I encourage you, even if you're not a Jackets fan, to tune in and check it out, because regardless of if you're a Jackets fan or not, this guy had a whole career as a broadcaster in the NHL, and he's going to have some great stories, and he's extremely knowledgeable. And he's one of the best broadcasters to ever do it in the game of hockey. So it's definitely not an episode you're going to want to miss.
That's right. So one last thing before we go, because we'd be remiss if we didn't say it, even though this is a football show, we will mention some baseball. Last night, our Milwaukee Brewers knocked out the rival Chicago Cubs, and they'll play the LA Dodgers in the NLCS. So obviously you and I are both looking forward to that. I think the Dodgers
are going to run us over. Yeah.
I think the Dodgers have the way better team, but as a Brewers fan, I'm hoping they win it for Uke and that the Magic Brew keeps going late into this month.
I'm with you 100%. And as much disdain as I have for the Cubs, I have to say Chicago and their fans, that was a hell of a series, and they fought like hell to the end and made it a great series. It was one of the best baseball playoff series I've ever watched. So
it was hard fought. One of their fans punched a 10-year-old Brewers fan. It was hard fought. Who said that? Okay. So, yeah, I have no pity for the Cubs and their fans, man. But that was a good one to win. That felt nice. It's been a lifetime of watching the Packers beat the Bears, and in recent memory, the Bucks beating the Bulls. So the Brewers getting another one over on the Cubs is even better. So, all right. Well, now that we're done being haters, I think it's time for us to wrap this one up. Sorry for the delay getting this episode out, but I'm telling you, if we would have done this episode last week, it would have been terrible.
Yeah, but
it would have been very poorly prepared, and it would have been very apparent.
It's like I always say, better late than never, man. But
that's right.
We did it. Thanks for sticking around with us for 2 hours. As always, make sure you're following us on social media. And if you have any questions you want to send to us, you can email the show, freshicehockeypodcast@gmail.com. Jeff Rimmer joins the show next week. Should be a good one. We'll see you guys then.